Welcome back. Okay, let's just dive right into it. Today's explainer is tackling a massive, honestly kind of invisible operational problem that just eats up months of development time and completely drains budgets dry. We're talking about the immense cost of wasting time on ideas that sound totally reasonable in a meeting, but haven't actually been rigorously stress tested. We're going to look at a system called IdeaClist and how it uses this thing called a validation council to solve it. If you're an operator, a developer, or anyone managing a product roadmap, this is absolutely going to change how you evaluate what to build next.
There's this saying, most ideas don't die from being bad, they die from being plausible. And man, that perfectly captures a really counterintuitive truth about product development. You see, the most expensive failures in your roadmap aren't the obviously terrible ideas, right? Those get shot down immediately. The truly dangerous ones, they're the plausible ones. They're just good enough that nobody really pushes back. They're polished. The whole room just kind of nods along during the presentation, and their hollowness is only revealed way later, after you've already committed resources and actually started building the thing.
So I want to pose this directly to you. How much time does your team waste building the reasonable-sounding idea? Just think about your last few quarters for a second. How many projects sailed through approval just on good vibes, only to hit a massive wall of reality in the market? That, right there, is the plausibility trap. You really don't need a tool to kill bad ideas. What you need is a tool to rigorously, intentionally attack the plausible ones before they earn a very, very expensive slot on your roadmap.
Which brings us to the AI sycophancy problem. Because you might be thinking, hey, why not just ask a chatbot if the idea's good?
A lot of teams recognize this plausibility trap, and they try that intuitive, modern solution. You've got an idea, you paste it into your favorite chatbot, and you just ask, is this a good idea? But that introduces a massive pitfall called sycophancy risk. By design, if you ask a single AI model if your idea is good, it's almost always going to tell you yes. Not because your idea is actually brilliant, but because agreeing is exactly what these assistants are heavily trained to do. They want to be helpful. So a lone model is basically just a yes man dressed up as an analyst. It gives you this dangerous illusion of rigor while basically just rationalizing whatever you feed it. You're getting a comforting echo of what you want to hear, not the hard truth.
To escape that trap, we need a complete paradigm shift. So let's meet the Validation Council, powered by a tool called IdeaClist. IdeaClist is this open-source, local-first tool, released under the MIT license, by the way, and it exists to stress-test your ideas on purpose. Think of it as a private workspace where an idea goes to literally get argued with. Instead of relying on that single, overly agreeable chatbot, IdeaClist convenes a validation council. Just look at the contrast here. With the single model approach, you're getting reflexive agreement, that sycophancy risk we talked about, and unexamined blind spots. But with the council, IdeaClist takes two entirely different models, say Claude and Codex, and gives them completely opposing jobs. One model is assigned to make the absolute strongest case for the idea, and the other, its job is to relentlessly tear it down. They are forced to fight. And because different models have different default behaviors and different blind spots, pointing them at each other surfaces these hidden objections that a single model would have just glided right past. The disagreement isn't a bug here. Structured disagreement is the entire point.
But hold on, before the fight even begins, there's a really crucial prerequisite, the research pre-step. Because let's be honest, a debate without facts is just two confident voices shouting at each other. We've all been in those meetings. So before the models deliberate, there's a research pass that gathers context, prior art, and existing market signals. This is absolutely crucial because it grounds the upcoming debate in actual facts. The model defending the idea has to cite something real, and the model attacking it has to attack something real. They're arguing over hard evidence, not just impressions or, vibes.
Okay, let's look under the hood at the core engine of this structured disagreement, the 5 deliberation steps.
Here's the flow the Validation Council actually runs through. Step 1 is the frame. It explicitly defines the actual problem, who the target buyer is, and what's actually in scope. Step 2 is the steel man. This is where one model builds the absolute strongest, most honest case for why this idea should be built. Step 3 is the red team. The opposing model brutally attacks that case, bringing up all those risks that nobody in the boardroom actually wants to say out loud. Step 4 is the evidence check. They compare what's genuinely proven in the research versus what's quietly being assumed. And finally, step 5 is the verdict. It synthesizes this entire clash into one final recommendation. And the output you get from this process is incredibly valuable. It isn't just some magical thumbs up or thumbs down from a black box. It's inspectable, fully auditable recommendation with all of its reasoning attached. You can actually read through the argument and see exactly where the red team landed a solid hit against the idea. But here's the secret.
The real goal here is subtraction. In business, literally the cheapest leverage you have is deciding what not to do. So if the counsel returns a no and here's exactly why, you should be celebrating. You just killed a weak idea incredibly cheaply. You saved yourself months of wasted development time and preserved a precious, precious slot on your roadmap.
Now let's look at the bear and bull cases to ground this in reality, because we need to be realistic about what this can and can't do.
It's vital we stay objective here. Looking at the honest bear case, the hard limit of IdeaClist is that a council of models is still, well, just a bunch of models. Two AIs disagreeing can absolutely both be confidently wrong. Having an adversarial structure definitely reduces that sycophancy risk, but it doesn't just magically manufacture absolute ground truth. Plus, there's a real risk of process theater here, where people just blindly trust the council's verdict without bothering to read the reasoning. And most importantly, an AI cannot tell you if a market is real. Only actual buyers pulling out their actual wallets can do that. But pivoting to the bull case, the argument is incredibly strong. IdeaClist turns that vital task of deciding what not to do into a structured, highly repeatable process. And because it's provider agnostic and can run local first, it costs essentially nothing per idea. You get this amazing auditable trail of reasoning that completely replaces the reflexive yes of a lone chatbot. It's just phenomenally effective at stress testing logic and killing those weak ideas early.
So look, AI won't validate your market demand for sure, but this validation council guarantees that before an idea ever reaches your roadmap, it has survived an entity that was genuinely trying to tear it apart. Which brings me to one final thought I want to leave you with today. When you walk into your next product meeting, I want you to look around the room and ask yourself, who is genuinely trying to kill your next big idea? If the answer is nobody, well, you might just be falling right into the plausibility trap. That wraps up our explainer for today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.